Alright, what's going on, guys? Trev back again, here to bring you another video. This one's going to be doing another video for Gotham, the television series. After the big news, the series will be ending after its 5th season. Want to give our thoughts on this one on why we think it's being canceled or why we think it didn't continue to work. As per usual, I'll put the link to cinemablend.com in the description so you guys can go ahead and check out the current info on Gotham's last season, which is going to be Season 5. So yes, Gotham will return in September most likely, or in the fall, but it's going to be its last season, its final season of the series. Definitely wanted to give my thoughts on this information. They've canceled a bunch of other shows as well too. Brooklyn Nine-Nine, that was a comedy show, pretty fun show, but that one's being canceled as well too. Last Man on Earth, which I actually did like that show. I've done some reviews for that one, so maybe I'll do a video giving my thoughts on that, and a few others, The Mick, Lucifer, and The Exorcist. So they are canceling a bunch of series. Luckily for Gotham, they're going to do one last kind of hurrah, one last season, and it may not be a full 22 season order. The speculation is that it might do like a 13 episode order to get it to its 100 episode run, because of course the first 4 seasons were doing like 22 episodes a season, so it really got up there in terms of number. So in terms of syndication with 100 episodes, we might see that, and there's a possibility, like the speculation, that maybe even though it's not going to continue on Fox, maybe we could see it on something like Netflix or something like that. That's really, right now we can't really say. It's all speculation. I'd love to see it switch networks if it had to and show up on Netflix if they were able to do that, but there's a lot of details wrapped up in that. Really, it's difficult to say, but I do think that Netflix is playing a role on a lot of these cancellations, and on it's changing TV, right? It's changing the way kind of drama series are being viewed by people. Netflix is it's hard to compete with them when people can just go on anytime they want. They don't have to tune in a certain time or day of the week to watch one episode. They can literally go on Netflix anytime they want, and they can watch a whole season of episodes or check out a new series they haven't seen and literally go through and watch the whole first season, or in some cases, if a series they missed, multiple seasons, 4 or 5 or whatever, watch a whole series basically on Netflix. So it definitely is changing the landscape of the way things are being viewed as far as media goes. So we'll see. But for now, basically, the information is that Season 5 is the last season of Gotham. After that, the show is being canceled. The show will not continue after that, so far as we know, and it most likely will probably not get a 22-episode order based on the ratings it's been getting so far for Fox. They switched it to Thursdays, as I went over in my recent video, and it started off strong in the first season, had really good ratings, around 8 million to start, and 7 and 6, and each season it just marched downward to now where the 4th season is wrapping up. You're literally around 2 million views per episode, and it's probably a pretty expensive show to produce. If you're going to have big budget things happening, you're going to have character deaths, characters falling off rooftops, and a lot of editing, and you're going to have blimps, and you're going to have explosions, and you're going to have all this stuff with that many episodes. It probably is very difficult for them to produce this series, and most likely no longer makes sense for them to do so, which is why they're probably wanting to wrap it up. Of course, topic of speculation as well too, and you're free to speculate in the comments below on what you think and why that was. But in this one, I'm going to focus on mainly the demand for the show and kind of the change. So yes, the world is changing. Yes, Netflix has a role to play in just about any series, I think, and it's going to be difficult for any series on any station, be it Walking Dead, Gotham, whatever, even maybe Game of Thrones. Although I think that its final season should do fine, but it's it's going to be tricky, and it will have an effect on people kind of watching other series, I do think. So I do agree with that. But nonetheless, we can't ignore the fact that this is a pretty high-profile series. You're getting one of the biggest characters in history in this, in Batman, in his city, Gotham. The whole series being focused on Gotham as a city as a whole, with Jim Gordon kind of being the lead, and a young Bruce Wayne being supporting, young Selina Kyle being support. You have Bullock, and you have a whole bunch of characters, and I think they did do a really good job of the characterization in this series. They brought in a lot of different characters. They had lots of fun villains. They had different feels for different villains. So you bring in some villains like the Pig, who's really dark and brutal, and then you bring in other villains like the Riddler, who's kind of more fun but also very dangerous. Jerome and Jeremiah, and just all throughout the series, the Ogre. They've had some really kind of cool Balloon Man, no, but some fun villains as the series has gone through. Even though the series demand has dwindled down to around 2 million, and no longer having it make sense to really do much more of the show. So it's kind of a shame, and why we think it's getting canceled, or why we think that it didn't work in terms of the long run, because based on what we're seeing with Gotham, getting to see Bruce at a young age, starting to see him grow, starting to see Selina grow, it really felt like what they were going for here is they were going for a long-term series. It really seemed like this might be a show that could do like maybe Smallville or Supernatural or something, where you could have it get to a decade run. You could have it get to 10 seasons, or have it get to around that type of thing. And I would tend to think that's probably what they thought originally too. Although I can't speak for the people involved with producing Gotham, but I kind of figured, like when I first saw the first couple seasons, I was like, this could be a really good show. This could be something that could go on for at least 7, 8, 9, maybe 10, even possibly more, as those characters really grow, and you maybe have Bruce take on more and more of the role of Batman as he ages, right? So having it make sense as far as that way, and maybe Gordon kind of taking more of a back seat as he gets older and maybe grows a beard and that kind of thing, becomes more of like what we saw in the Dark Knight trilogy, as far as like an older aged Gordon as time kind of goes on. So unfortunately, 5 seasons, it's not a total failure. It's not a total it didn't work at all. It did work pretty good, it sounds like, for at least a while here. It wouldn't have gotten to at least a 5th season if it didn't work at all. So it did work somewhat, but this one, let's give our thoughts on why we think it's being canceled, or why we think it's just it's only going to get the 5th season, and it won't get to some of those later seasons like a lot of us had thought originally it probably would run for quite a while. So for me, really here, and I don't think it's the quality of the recent episodes. If you look at season 4's second half, they've done some amazing stuff with this season. I think it's been a lot of fun, but I think overall, if I had to pick one thing about Gotham, well, there's 2 main ones for me, but the one main thing I think for the reason why I didn't get past the 5th season, I think it's because of the way that the genre in the series is kind of really mixed. You have a very mixed sort of genre with Gotham. You have certain episodes that are very dark. So you have certain episodes like the Pig stuff and some of the villains earlier on. Like even if you look at Fish Mooney in the very first season in the premiere, you get some brutal stuff, and it's very horror-esque. It's very scary. So there's certain episodes where they go for like that kind of like horror aspect of it. But then there's other episodes where you focus on like a child Bruce Wayne. So you have like a kid Bruce, a kid Selina, and it's like you're trying to figure out, okay, which audience is this tailored to? Are you going for a more mature audience with kind of the horror stuff and the Pig and all the brutality that is with him, cutting people's fingers off or whatever, or throwing knives at people, blood everywhere, and pig masks, and really some dark, because there are some episodes like that in Gotham that are very horror-esque and very, very scary, right? There are some. So if you're going to go that route and you're going to have stuff like that in the series, that feels like you're going for a more mature audience. When you bring in that kind of audience, it's difficult to mix in some of these kind of, comic booky, kind of lighter, fun, happy things with that. You kind of have to, even though you can float around a little bit, I think, in terms of genre, I don't think you can mix in episodes where you have super dark themes and people being hung up in meat lockers and things like this, really brutal, really scary stuff like that, and then also sometimes bring in Solomon Grundy Born on a Monday, or, these really funny DC Comics characters, maybe Ivy, the earlier versions of her, and the younger kids, Bruce and Selina, at that age. That audience, for the horror-esque audience, if you're going to go full-on horror, you're going to go really dark and really scary like that, edgy, you kind of have to go with probably a more mature Bruce Wayne. And that brings me to the second one, is I don't think that audience wanted to see that version of Batman. I think that they probably wanted to see either a year 1 Batman, or a full adult or a fully grown up Batman, versus a very young Bruce Wayne that is just a supporting character for Gordon. Having Gordon as a lead, even though it makes sense from TV series logic, because then you don't have to have Batman be the lead and do kind of be more expensive and be harder to kind of do as an adult Batman. But if you don't go that route and you go with Gordon as kind of your lead, I don't know if your hardcore Batman fans are really going to want to be into it. And it's not, there's Gotham Confidential, there's different comics where they do focus on Gordon. Some of them are really good, I really like some of them, but it's just, it kind of feels to me like they didn't really target, a particular audience well enough. They were kind of going for the Batman hardcore fans in a lot of ways. And while there are some of them, there's not that many as far as casual, everybody knows who Batman is, but there's only some hardcore Batman fans that really love the comics and have read everything and gone through it all, like a lot of you guys and me who want to talk about this kind of stuff on the internet. We're hardcore fans. But for casual fans, that might not be something that appeals to them. They might see this Grundy character and think, oh, that's freaking stupid, or something like that. Whereas we comic fans are like, oh, it's brilliant. He's going to be Grundy. This is awesome, right? So it's kind of tricky. And what they kind of brought Gotham into, well, I thought it worked pretty well, and it was really good, and it did work well enough to get to the 5th season at the very least. At the same time, I think that mixing of having in some of those really dark episodes that are going to scare away a lot of your kind of casual viewers, and then also mixing in kind of the kids stuff and some of the Bruce partying and stuff like this and some of the other stuff, it's like, it's okay, right? But, it's pretty difficult to mix those kind of two in together, and it sends a message like, okay, what are you trying to create and who are you going for here? And I think maybe it just kind of confused the audience to where the people that wanted to see kind of that lighter, more fun type of show, they definitely got turned off by some of the stuff earlier on in the series when you see some of the really dark stuff they did, or the pig, or Fish, and some of the earlier season stuff like that, some of the dark episodes with brutal kills and things like that. That casual audience might have got killed off from that. They might have left as a result of that because it was too dark and too scary and not something that you could watch with your kids or watch with your family or whatever. And then vice versa. On the other side of things, for the hardcore people, maybe they love that stuff. They love the darker villains, Mad Hatter, and some of the other things like that were kind of crazy to see. But then they didn't like the fact that you mixed in some of those kind of younger elements that you could have and could work for a younger audience or for a more family PG type of viewing audience. So I think it kind of mixing maybe a little bit too much and not kind of focusing more on one or the other. If they'd have drawn back on some of the edginess and not gone so edgy with Pig and with some of those other characters like Fish earlier on, and there's lots of others too throughout the series, and I'm not going to get into too much, but a lot of killing and just craziness. With that type of style, trying to mix that with the other silly style, it was interesting. I thought it was a little bit avant-garde. It was cool to see them kind of try to bring these things in together. Like if you look at season 3, Mad City and stuff like this, where you have kind of the colorful logo, but then you go from that to the black, and you go to the pig, and he's like hacking people up and stuff like this, really scary and stuff. So I personally enjoyed it a lot. I love the series, pretty much all the way through. But this is trying to understand not hardcore fans. This is trying to understand the casual fans and why they kind of left. Of course, you could also go with kind of the idea, well, it switched nights and people just stopped caring. They did so many episodes, people got burned out on it, they got tired of it, and there's so much competition for other things to watch with Netflix and all the other streaming services and other networks and other shows that it just... people weren't that into it to keep it going. You couldn't rely on just the hardcore Batman fan base. You need, a bigger audience than that, and Gotham confused that audience too much to where they decided to turn off. So let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment below on how you feel about this. Like, for example, okay, there's the one where Sophia smashes Lee's hand with a hammer, right? So that's freaking brutal, right? So I kind of loved it. It's like, oh, God. It's very brutal. It's some brutal stuff to see in Gotham. But how do you think a casual viewer would respond to that? What do you think a mother, if she's got kids in the room or whatever, and they're watching something, next thing you see some lady pull out a freaking hammer and start smashing someone's hand in a brutal fashion, right? So maybe that's part of the problem. That's probably what I would go with, is that, and the fact that the audience didn't accept a younger Bruce Wayne with a Gordon as a lead and Bruce being a support. Maybe what they really wanted to see was a Batman series, a full-on Batman series. And maybe we will see that in the future. Maybe after Gotham ends, maybe they could do some kind of sequel down the road, or something of the sort where they focus on actual Batman, and you actually see, maybe they could even get the same actor to come back and do it or something, in in a few years, a year one Batman or something, and do that kind of series and have it be like a different version or something. So right now, that's all fan theory kind of stuff. None of that is confirmed or anything. I know that's what a lot of people are probably thinking, but we don't have anything to support that right now. So we'll see. But those are kind of my thoughts, quickly on why I think Gotham is being canceled after season 5, why I think it lost, a huge portion of its audience going from in the 6s and 7s to the 2s. Technology, yes, has something to do with it, but I also think confusing that audience and, it just not being what you would want for either party. If you're going to go family friendly and you're going to go for the colorful and all the fun stuff, you kind of have to stay with that. You can't really flip-flop back and forth between the super dark horror stuff like you see on maybe Walking Dead and Game of Thrones and then go back to the silly stuff afterwards. Those audiences are kind of conflicting. So let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment below, and if you like this video, please thumb it up below. You can share, you can favorite, and if you're new and you want to subscribe to the channel, you can do so at the bottom left. That's it for this one. I'll see you guys again soon for another video. As always, it's Trev, and I'm saying peace. Later, guys. See you soon.